The other thing that is kind of weird is like the whole thing with the water. That Arcane Studios, like, you get hurt every time you walk on water in their game. So I don't fucking get it. Here, water is toxic. If you step on it, you get hurt. If you fall in water, you die. And, and I honestly don't get it.
That is weird.
And the same thing happens in Prey. In Prey, water hurts you. So I don't get it.
Maybe it's because the original name of the studio was Arcane of Sugar. You know, that's
So,
welcome everybody to episode 53 of New Game Experience. My name is Juan Paolini, your host and permanent stutter person, accompanied as always by Christian Caroli. How are you, my friend?
doing well, getting better every day, stronger, faster, sharper.
Yes, like the philosopher Kanye West used to say, right? Oh no, wait. That was first by Daft Punk, correct?
Yeah, but he said it best.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I'm not one to defend Kanye West because he does some weird things, but he did that better. Okay, so this the topic for this episode is going to be realism in games. This is a topic suggested a couple of weeks ago by our own Christian Caroli here. So I have a couple of talking points here, but he's gonna, I think, lead the conversation where he needs to go. He has his agenda. So take it away, my friend. I'm excited about this because I think this could be a really cool conversation.
So I think that we're entering into a fun territory with games, because I think that probably this is the first like new generation of consoles where whatever changes is not that super dramatically different. So people are looking for pretty obscure stuff. Like, if we go way back to like the first Super Nintendo games and the jump to 3D, the first happened with Star Fox. Like, it was kind of like the first time that you saw a game and be like, wow, this is like you're moving in space, although it was kind of like an illusion. And then the jump when the N64 was like, we can do 3D games, and the first PlayStation. And then we had PlayStation 2, which was like a huge jump in quality, lighting, and in a way like realism. And I think that PlayStation 3 was like another stepping stone. Like, the things that you were able to do in PlayStation 2 were impossible to do in PlayStation 1, and the things that were able to do in PlayStation 3 were impossible to do on PlayStation 2, or like that kind of was the feeling. And then the PlayStation 4 came around. And for me, even though that's a console that has incredible, beautiful games, the biggest transition there was like online gaming and delivery. So now you can download your games and all that. And now we're in PlayStation 5, where they basically have no games, or they're coming little by little. And people are struggling with, okay, why should I buy this thing? Like, other than it loads faster and it kind of looks better in some games and higher frame rate, but we're entering into a territory where realism, photorealistic games, they are, people are asking that, like, when are the next photorealistic games? I don't know. Like, do you remember when, like, the first time you saw a game and you were like, wow, I can't believe this is a game that looks this good?
Well, I mean, I think it's funny because I think we've all had that moment with video games throughout their history a couple times, and then you go back and you say, like, did I really say that about this one? You know, like, things evolve and stuff. But I think that in recent memory, recent, quote unquote, I think The Last of Us 1 was one that pretty much surprised me, even though it was PS3. I think that that game for that console, like, they really squeezed that hardware to its max. The Naughty Dog are really like masters of doing that. And yeah, I think that that was kind of the first time I can say that without being a little ashamed, even though it's, you know, I think that's a 2013 game, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2013.
So 8 years have gone by. Of course, we've had much better ones, including a sequel that looks incredibly amazing in terms of like photorealistic art styles and everything. Like I remember playing The Last of Us 2, loving it, and then going to Ghost of Tsushima. And even though Ghost of Tsushima is beautiful, it's in its own right, with its own very different set of skills, like with like landscapes and stuff. I was like, there was a very specific downgrade in for example, like facial animations. That was a big thing. But I mean, I'm sure we'll go into it. How about for you? Like, when was maybe the not the first one? Because I mean, I think I've said this about like Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time when I was a kid. But what about for you?
I think that the first time that I thought, wow, this looks very good. I think there are different ones. But the first one was with Max Payne 1. Like I thought, like this looks very good. And also Remedy games, they always had this knack for particles and things blowing up and destructible scenarios that I thought it was awesome. I think that the first time I said, wow, this is like almost like real, it was playing Uncharted.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I saw that one. It was like, wow, this is pretty legit. I don't think that I feel that way a lot with first person shooters, and I think that's one of the things when it comes to realism. That the first time I thought, like obviously, like when you play video games, they're always like random games. So there's stuff like you have things to do from one point to the other. There's a UI, but the first time I think I thought of, well, you know what would be cool? It was when I thought, imagine a game where if you get shot, you die. The stakes are that high, like in the real world, because you cannot take like obviously you cannot be shot multiple times and just like go about your day hours ahead. And I think that when I played Rainbow Six, which was kind of like a simulator for tactical combat operations, I think that's one way to put it. I remember playing it and being like, "Wow, this is not fun."
That was exactly what I was thinking.
Like this is so fucking boring. Like you make one mistake and then you're done. And I think that was the first time I questioned like my ideas around whether I wanted a game to be like realistic. And now every time I see something that it's bound to be a little realistic, I question it like why.
Yeah, I think I totally see what you're saying. To me, the first time I encountered like this debate between what I call escapism versus realism, is like, I remember when I was in high school, I had this other friend that he was also a gamer, and he was talking about like how he loves like Call of Duty and squad based games, just like you mentioned. Like maybe he didn't use the specific Rainbow Six example, but I mean there's others. Yeah, like Ghost Recon and stuff. And I was saying like, I don't like it in games when I have partners, like party members and stuff. That's something even to this day, I prefer to be like a lone wolf, like instead of a Final Fantasy, a Witcher in that sense. And the reason is because for example, let's take a shooter. Like this has happened to me numerous times, and every time it makes me more and more hateful, or it makes me more angry. And it is that, like you have a sniper, so you aim down sights, you have the reticle on the enemy's head, the thing is swaying just a little bit to add to the realism that we're talking about. You have it like on the spot, and just when you're about to shoot, your partner comes in front. You shoot your partner without like unintentionally,
And now everyone knows you're there.
now everyone knows you're there. And sometimes maybe games say, oh, you killed your partner, so you have to go back to the checkpoint because you can't do that. So to me, and so I hated having partners because of that. And he was like, but having partners makes it be more real. And I was like, I'm playing a video game. I'm not looking for real. Like that's exactly what I'm going against in this experience. So that's the first time I remember having this debate, like being a, I don't know, 14-year-old little boy. And but I mean, even though I still think that in some ways, I do think that this is a thing that as always with our conversations, it always depends, right? Because I was talking about last week how I was playing Ghost of Tsushima and how I was a little bit bored with the combat when it wasn't as hard, because I was like, there's a thing where the weight of being hit by a sword, if I get hit by like five swords and I'm not dead, there's something there that just doesn't click in my brain. Whereas when I go to lethal difficulty, I love it because the stakes are super high. I have to be really careful, and the victories feel a little bit more gratifying.
No.
So yeah, how do you feel about it?
I think that when it comes to like difficulty, like there are different vectors, of course. Like one of them is like the difficulty, like oof, you one shot and you're out, and then that's part of the mystery. And like I think that usually bodes well. I'm playing Prey from Arcane Studios, and it's a bit too hard, I would say, the game, and like you don't have that many bullets and like things floating around, so you kind of like die a lot until you figure out like how to go about the game. And also it has like this huge skill tree that I'm not pretty sure like which direction I should take it. Like I guess that's part of the game, like having all those liberties. but but definitely the idea that these things that you're fighting are very dangerous. They make sense of the story, because otherwise there are no risks, there's no tension, and then the game turns into something else. And that's one way of trying to make both things sync. But I do think also that more and more games are like building the gameplay, and kind of like the emergent gameplay that comes from this hyperrealism around it. And sometimes it's becoming a bit tedious. And I think that I have two examples for this. The first one is in Red Dead Redemption 2, which I think that is by far one of the best games ever made, period. But I also think that every time you have to pick up items, it's like wow, like I really like this is the game. You have to like open the shelf, pick up something, put it in your bucket, pick up the next thing, put it in your pocket. And it's like, and then if you want to get things from the enemies, you're just like, checking them out and pillaging their pockets. And it's like, why? This is not, I get it if you're doing that in the middle of combat, and then you're going to get like a reward, and then the penalty is you have to stop what you're doing and do that. But after the fight is over, the fact that you have to like check the fucking bodies, come on, give me a fucking break. Like, why is that part? Like, it's just tedious. Like, it just doesn't make any sense at all. Even when it comes to like going to the store, the store is kind of like a magazine that you basically pick the things that you want, and it's so hard to find anything that is like, what's the point of this? Like, I get it that you're opening it like a magazine, but then at least make it easier to do things. Like, and that's kind of like a philosophy decision in the game that on other aspects is really good, but most of it is like, what?
I totally agree on that front. I love that game, but like I believe even with the shops, you have to wait for the page animation to complete as well, right?
Yeah, you have to walk to and you could also like buy things
Yeah.
strictly not out of the inventory, but out of the store. And I think that's enough. Like, if you want to like have the idea that this is a store, just the fact that you pick up things and then you buy them immediately, I think that's cool enough. But the fact that you also have to go there and then it's kind of like your finger going, I don't think it's your finger, but like you're picking up things in a magazine, and sometimes it's really hard to buy things, and it's just like, really. But when the one that pisses me the most is the looting. Like, you walk into a place and then you don't know, what the fuck is going on. Like, you don't know where anything is. You can miss things, and it just not add to the story. Like, it just at some point it's just like boring. And I get it. Like, if they have that mechanic for like some quest items or important stuff, but they have it for everything. So it becomes super boring after a while, and it's just a nuisance. And the same thing happens with hunting. The fact that you have to skin the animal, put it in your horse, take it back, and it's just like it really threw me off. Like, I understand, like, at that point of the game, if you want to do it that way, then it's kind of like you enjoy that specifically. But I'm more, I prefer like when those Rockstar games are just like a bit more camping, and there's just stuff on the ground and just pick it up automatically. Like, there's no need to overkill the sense of realism. So for that game, it's something that I think it was a weight on the game.
Yeah, I think I agree because it doesn't really add anything. I mean, it's not. like when I think of why that game is so one of the best games ever made, just like you said, that is not one of the reasons. That's actually one of the reasons that goes against this this argument. And I think that that opens up a pretty cool talking point, that is, when does realism serve the game, and do we have examples for it, and when doesn't it? I mean, we already gave the example of Red Dead Redemption. I believe you have an example with Kingdom Come Deliverance that you wanted to
You
talk about
haven't
as
you
well.
haven't played that one, right?
No, unfortunately, no.
Oof. That game. I started playing the game and it was like, okay, I'm going to enjoy this thing. I'm in the mindset of I want to play like a medieval simulator. Um, and then I went about it, and like the game starts, and you're not supposed to be very good at fighting because fighting is kind of hard. When you pick up a sword, you're not supposed to, be that good with the sword because sword fighting it's hard. You're gonna have to learn it and get better. And then also, lock picking, it's impossible. They actually had to patch it just so people could actually lockpick because it was feasibly not an option. And then, yeah, you could say that, well, basically, how can I say it? Like, basically, yeah, lockpicking is a skill that most people don't have, let alone like on the 12th century or whatever happened, that thing happened. And then thing got going, and then I was in a mission where you're supposed to hunt rabbits with a bow and arrow, and then it's almost impossible to. You don't have a reticle. Your arrow, it goes randomly everywhere, and then you're like, well, I guess this makes sense. It's supposed, like, it's hard to hunt a rabbit, and then I was like, why am I playing this fucking game? Like everything is just obnoxious and hard and almost impossible. And the story was really good. Like it was incredibly grounded. It was, the dialogues were almost like they were perfect. And technically, the game was not that impressive. It was made with the Cry engine, and which is, according to the developers and plenty of people, I have friends that they work in Crytek. Actually, it's not an engine for an open world game with such a permanent static state as this game has it. And I stopped playing it. I was like, there was not a single mechanic in that game that was not excruciating. And then when you read the, like, you went to the subreddit and you talked to people, they were like, well, it gets easier because you get a bit better, but yeah, like you can't really like take on two guys at the same time, or you do have to sleep, and then you have to eat, and then if you have to eat, then you have to find places where they sell food, but you don't have that much money because you're poor, and it's like, fucking kill me.
I'm already living that in my life. I don't need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
really.
It was exhausting. Like every mechanic on top of each other was just. And then the last minute I played, I was like fast traveling from one point to another, and then I got mocked, and some bandits assaulted me, took my horse. I ran off and I escaped. And I remember like saying to a friend like, I had to escape. There was no way I could beat three people, and he was like, yeah, it's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I was just fast traveling. I understand that this happens, but like, it really set me back. And it was like, this is not the game I want to play. Like just leave it at that. And if people want like a medieval simulator, go for it. But definitely not what I want. Definitely not what I want. And after I played it, I don't think I've found kind of like the I think that I played this one, and like immediately after I played Dark Souls 3, and I thought like this is what I wanted, like a game where I just have a big sword and then I kill people and it's hard and there's a deep story, and then I fell in love with Souls like games. But it was just like it's like Kingdom Come was not what, like, once I experienced what they were selling, I was like, there's no way I like this.
Okay. So, can we think of examples where the realism has added to the experience? Do you have any examples for that? I think I have a couple. Yeah.
I think The Last of Us is kind of like the perfect sample for
Yeah.
that. The fact that you have a backpack, you have your guns, that they're like, you see them physically on your holster, in your holster, or like in your padding. And then if you want another gun, you need another holster, and you upgrade your guns, and you see how the gun is upgraded visually. I think that's just great. And in the crafting system as well, the way that you pick up things and it's like, oh, with this I'm going to build some other stuff. I think that's pretty cool, and I think that added a lot.
Yeah, in the case of The Last of Us, I also remember the upgrading your weapons was also pretty cool because you could actually see like the parts
Yeah,
changing. This is something that I really love it when games do that. When I don't know, like you get a bigger clip, but then you actually see the clip going out of the gun because it has more bullets and doesn't fit it. I love that kind of stuff. Um,
I think that I have that one, and I think I would also say, I think that in Ghost of Tsushima, there's a little bit of that as well. Like when it comes to like the realism, like the fact that you have kind of like the stances, and then they're more effective against different type of weapons because that's kind of like a thing. So so I guess like if you explore that, that's cool. And also, it's what you're saying, like if you have lethal difficulty and then two shots and you're dead, that plays in favor of the stakes, your mission, your purpose in the universe. Like I think those things are really cool. Um, in general, the other example that we have there is Death Stranding, which I'm about to start the director's cut. And the first times I played it, I just couldn't stand it because like it began and people were like, "Oh, you're delivering packages from one side to the other." And it's like, "Well, this is cool. I mean, there's nothing bad about it." And then as I was playing like the first few hours, I was just feeling so frustrated with the fact that all my energy was focused on walking from one point to the other, and that was it. And it
yeah,
was not that relaxing as well.
yeah, I think I see that because there's this new fad of people calling some games Zen games, which is something that I totally get because there are games where you can just kind of put out a podcast or listen to music and you can just like blaze through whatever. And yeah, so this game is not really that relaxing. I agree with that. But I think that at the time that I played it, aside from the fact that I'm a big Kojima fan and that's something that I wanted to experience, it was something different. And that's something that I appreciated. However, I did see you tweeting something about the review that it got from one very famous news outlet where they were kind of saying that since the suffering in the director's cut is lessened by some of the new features, then that makes the reward less rewarding. I mean, that's kind of stupid to say, but you know what I mean. So let's get into that because I think that's also very interesting, and it comes into the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I hated that review. So if you feel free, everyone watching this, feel free to check it out on IGN. The review of the director's cut. I didn't like it at all. I think that if you don't like a game and the game proves to be very controversial, you should get someone that actually liked the game to review the next part because like the people that didn't like it in the beginning, it's not like they're massively gonna enjoy a remaster of it. So the fact that the guy was like, yeah, I gave it a 5 at the beginning, but some people think it's a masterpiece. So I'm just going to review it again and give it a 5 again because I still don't fucking get it. I believe that when I talk with people that they love this game, they think that what they say is that you understand that your purpose in the game is what is you're doing, which is you're delivering packages and you're doing the best you can, and like that's the game. It's not about the story. It's just about connecting people, and if you enjoy those mechanics that are a bit like I don't know. I don't want to say tedious, but like repetitive or like Blake.
Definitely
I
repetitive.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think that then you can enjoy it and original ways of collaborating by creating roads and all that crap. And I think that that's okay. Like if you get someone that enjoys that, and probably that will be me next week if I manage to like sync with this game, then it's cool. But otherwise, you're not getting it. Like if someone were to say, "Hey, Chris, can you review, I don't know, Truck Simulator Europe, Euro Truck?" I don't even know what these games are called, but like
Yeah, yeah.
I will be like, or even not even that one. If someone says review Flight Simulator, I would be like, "Wow, okay, I'll fly once. I'll do the tutorial, and then I won't have any fucking idea what to do next." Like because I just don't get it. So it's a game that is built by a very specific audience. It's like the same reason like why World of Tanks is like a massively popular multiplayer game and there's not a single person um playing that game that doesn't have arthritis.
Yeah, just to go back to Death Stranding a little bit. I do think that reducing because the point you had made was that reducing this to just you suffer and then you get a reward, that's really reductive. I mean, that's not really representative of what the game is and what the
Or what the
game.
people are feeling. Like people, it's not like,
Exactly.
oh, I suffered a lot, and I like. No, it's like they didn't. That's the thing. People playing Death Stranding, they did not suffer. They understood that their job was to deliver packages from one place to the other, and then there are a lot of cutscenes, and the game looks great. And then if you're careful and patient, it pays out, and that's it. Like it's if someone were to ask me what I like about Prey, it's not about, oh, I die all the time. Or like with Dark Souls, people are like, what do you like? I don't like when you're like killed and then sent back to the very beginning of the level. You know, like no one fucking likes that. Or like when you lose your souls, or your blood echoes, or like whatever. Like no one enjoys that. But that's kind of like the penalty of the game. If you were to review Dark Souls and you were like 5 out of 5, this game is too hard, then don't review it. Like that's not what there's no way that people are playing it because it's painful.
Yeah, no,
You
I
know?
totally agree. And your point about like hiring the same guy to do the review, I think is very valid because like for the first time, okay, it makes sense for you to choose. I don't know what criteria they used for the first time, but for the second time, I understand you wanted to be consistent between both reviews, but like if you want to evaluate the, let's say, yeah, well, I mean, I'm very eloquent today, but evaluate the value. Like, if you want to appraise the value of the new features, it's better to get somebody who likes the game, and then that way, he or she will, like test it accordingly.
Yeah.
Not test it with the, let's say, bias of I didn't like the game the first time. I'm not gonna like it now as well. Like, yeah,
Especially because these director's cuts, they're not for, oh, we're fixing the things that people didn't like about the game so we can sell more. They're like, okay, we're adding more content because people maxed out, or because we thought that they had a vision that with this it will be like complete, but it's not. It's most likely not going to change anyone's mind. It's just going to be an improved experience. And in general, in particular with Death Stranding, I think that it's a game that has so many resources invested into things that are like so small, like the whole thing with the mirror, the whole thing with the, I don't know, like in general, it's a game that just it goes off the rails in order to try to be different, because it rethinks the idea of like what a game can be. It's kind of like a really interesting piece of media, which is something that I can't really say for Kingdom Come Deliverance. It's just a studio that they were like, this game is going to be realistic as fuck. And in that journey, they didn't realize that they were losing basic accessibility. Like at some point, you think like, is this a game for people that don't play games? Because that could also be um, like a pitch. Like, yeah, this is a game that is just super real. Today there was a demo that was shared by Tim Soret, which is kind of like one of the creative. I think it's creative director of the people that are developing The Last Night, this pixel art game, and he always shares a really cool thing about game development. And he shared some visuals from a game called Ride 4, that it's kind of like a bike simulator, and it looks very realistic. Like it looks as if you're in the bike because the camera, it's really good. The landscape is almost photorealistic. But at the same time, I'm not sure that that's how you play the game. Like with
sure.
the camera moving like that, and like in paper it looks good, but that does not make it either fun, or that you're gonna be able to simulate the things that you're able to simulate in games like SnowRunner, or like in Flight Simulator.
Absolutely. And that's another branch of this topic that I don't have any experience to talk about, but I do know it exists, which is, as you said, simulators. Like, this is where the design philosophy gets flipped on its head. Now it's not about telling a story, it's not about what serves the philosophy of the game. Now it's about what serves making this experience as close as possible to the real one. And there's some funny ones in there. I mean, it's like a goat simulator, which is kind of a satire. But there's also like power washing simulator. You know how those
Yeah, yeah,
washers,
yeah. And
that
I
was
think
looks that
that's
was fun.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's fun, satisfying. If they nail the sound and the textures, the other thing they need is like the smell of water, and then you're
Oh,
there, you're transported. But
that'd be
Flight
awesome.
Simulator is a good one. That it's really a game that if you dive into it, it's not like you become a pilot, like you don't become a licensed pilot, but yeah, you know how to fly a plane. Like you could, so it's I don't want to like say that flying a plane is easy, but it's not that hard. Like like you could learn that from Flight Simulator, and obviously like you could translate some of that knowledge into flying a plane. But in general, it's a very articulated experience that obviously has levels in the sense that like the UI can be dumped down so you can fly like a Airbus or shit like that. But for example, with truck simulators, it's a truck. You're just driving a truck, and that's the game. And some people find that very relaxing, and I think that's cool, because um, it's not the same thing working as a truck driver as just driving a truck, and chilling. And if you have a good setup, it's probably something cool. You just burning time, enjoying enjoying a hobby. So I think those games that they rely on reality and realism, it's they do their thing. But for me, it's almost like they're not.
Games.
Yeah, like there's not exactly. I don't want
Yeah.
to say they're not games because by definition they're games, but like they're not the experience they're not competitive. For example,
Yeah, exactly.
to
And
some extent.
when I say it's not a game, I don't mean that as in a derogatory sense. I just mean that to me, a simulator already by definition has a very different set of, as we said, philosophies, and that just puts it in a different category. And that's just, yeah, I think that's
And
that's
the way
basically
they
what it is.
evaluate it has to be different because there you don't roll the credits on flight simulator. It's not
Exactly.
like, well, you flown off planet. Congratulations, you've seen every airport. Like it does not work that way. So these games are very sandbox based, and they're very open, and that in the same, and that's limiting. Like there's only so much that flight simulator can give you, and I think that's okay. Like
Yeah.
it's just part of the experience.
I think
But
I think also that they know that, and and I don't mean this to sound derogatory either, but I see that in games like Forza Motorsport, Gran Turismo, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like they know there is not much to the mechanics of the game, so one of the things they rely on is photorealism, for example,
mhm.
and that on the one hand makes the game more appealing, but on the other hand, it does serve the philosophy of either the simulator or in this case the racer. Because I mean,
Yeah,
who plays racer? Like car fans, and car fans love the cars. They love the, I don't know how they would call it, but the anatomy of the car, the design, and everything. So when you stylize that in a cell shaded form, you kind of lose a lot. Or when you
yeah.
put it like in like a pixel art, you lose a lot, and so it goes against. Yeah,
And also the feeler of having a career mode and unlocking shit, and like it like if you want a simulator, probably you want to have everything unlocked right off the bat, or like do it incrementally just because you want someone to learn the mechanics little by little. But if someone already knows a lot from Flight Simulator because they've been playing it for a long time, they might as well start with everything unlocked, because that's what they are. They're simulators. So I think that's also like part of the appeal that these games have, is that you can just burst right in and immediately you're good at it, kind of thing. I think that when it comes to like photorealism, it's weird because it's almost as if photorealism it became kind of like a thing of AAA games. Like like if a game looks photorealistic, then it's AAA, and if it looks cell shaded and shit, only Nintendo can pull that off without being called like trash. you know?
yeah. No, I think for a long time that was the case, but I think that when the PS4 generation came, the line kind of faded a lot, and I like that it did, because I think that also gave indies like, I think we've talked about this before, but in the Xbox 360 days, a downloadable game was considered a lesser game than a AAA game, or even a double A game. Now we have Hades competing with The Last of Us, which is something that we would have never had 10 years ago, and I love that that's a reality. And in this case, like, for example, I don't know if you played The Vanishing of Ethan Carter.
I haven't.
Okay, well, that's a very, very good game. Kind of a walking simulator, but a good one. There are bad ones. And that game, I mean, is for all intents and purposes an indie. And the photorealism, like the way they executed the vistas and everything is very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's when we started to see what I said, the line kind of fading and things crossing over a little bit. We have Borderlands, like a huge AAA looter shooter that is completely cell shaded. And yeah, I think that's awesome.
I think that's also like part of the expectation of all these games becoming the same game, like every single AAA game being a third-person action open world game has crippled a little bit, kind of like the value proposition of many games. And because instead of exploring other styles and exploring like other mechanics, like I think that's why I'm liking a lot like Arcane Studios games. Like I told you, like I started playing Deathloop, and I thought it was. I'm not, at the beginning I wasn't into it, but then I picked it up. Like I was like, okay, this is cool. This is actually cool. And I have to say that that type of lateral thinking of like, what if the game is not this but this? It's something that we need more of, because I do find it weird that you build a game, create the whole thing, but the moment that the early experience derives from the norm, then everyone's like, oh, this game is shit, and that is happening way too much. And we discussed that it happened to Days Gone, and I think it's definitely what hurt Prey. I think that the first hour of Prey is like a game that you just like, what the fuck, like this is not what these games usually do, and then your expectations fall off. But if you readjust them, then you're like, oh wow, this is actually pretty fucking incredible. And right now there are two main things that are happening with this generation, at least visually. The first one is loading times, which is, well, it's going to be temporary because that's obviously that's gonna change, I believe, or maybe not, because like loading times are faster because now you have an SSD drive, so you can load things faster. So probably that's just going to be the case. But the other thing we have is 60 FPS and 120 hertz, and we have ray tracing, and these options are just they revolve around fidelity and photorealism. So that has to be exploded. Like games are gonna start looking a lot better sooner than later, and but probably that's not gonna be enough. That's not gonna sell enough. So I think that there has to be exploration on what a game can do.
Absolutely. So let's get into, we kind of touched upon it a little bit before, but into hyperrealism, because I think that that's kind of a contentious subject sometimes, because some people swear by it. Like, so I think I know a couple people that if it's not hyper realistic, they don't really even look at it. It's like, oh, okay, this is a shitty game, or this is a Nintendo game, like you said before, and they just like wash over it, which I think is totally like unfair, and you kind of miss out on a lot. But okay, everybody's got their thing.
Yeah.
And some people assume that by a game being photorealistic, it's automatically a little bit boring because, I mean, it's kind of obvious where you're going to go, right? Like there's no real, let's say, creative art style. You're just basing yourself on reality, which I think it's kind of unfair as well, because doing that requires a lot of skill and a lot of work, like actually accomplishing what, for example, Naughty Dog has accomplished with The Last of Us 2. But I think that both opinions, like I stand somewhere in the middle, where I think both opinions have something of value in them. So first of all, how do you feel about this kind of debate? And then we'll go in there.
I think I like them, but I think they have to serve the game. Like I think Naughty Dog when they made The Last of Us was incredibly original because the story itself, it was kind of like not unnecessary photorealistic, but it was like so the fidelity was so high that it really empowered like all the emotions and like the motion capture and like the language, the dialogues. The writing is very important on like selling this photorealistic thing, and that's one of the cool things. Again, like I'm going back to use Arcane as an example because their games are not photorealistic at all. They are they look different. Like the shit that happens is insane, but the dialogue is incredibly grounded and it feels like a movie and it's well acted and like it's pretty cool. Even though the characters they're obviously like CGI people, and in some other aspects I think that it really it's hard to like see the line because if you take a game like Horizon where those people not obviously they don't exist but the voice acting was a bit weak other than the one that Ashley does for Aloy. I think that all, the rest of the voice acting is kind of like all over the place, and even I would say like some of the character design, like they just
Weird.
feel weird,
Yeah.
and that's a game that I think they would have like it would have been cool to like look a little bit better because you always have the whole thing of the uncanny valley that you
Hmm.
have the how likable robots are like when they barely look like robots and then when they start looking like humans you're like oh and then you're back at it because like you can't tell them apart. So I think that that's usually what happens with CGI characters. I think that that shouldn't take anything away from the game, but I think that Sony has like they have way too many first party games that are just super photorealistic third person action games. That's kind of like the lineup, and
Yeah,
they're the best.
that's that like the template.
Yeah,
Photorealistic, post-apocalyptic, third person. It's all the
because
same.
you had like Days Gone, The Last of Us, Horizon. They had what else?
God
They
of
had God
War,
of War as well. And I'm sure like if we keep thinking of the exclusives, like we have Death Stranding as well that falls into that
yeah,
category.
Spider-Man. I mean, it's not
Sp-
post-apocalyptic, but it's
Spider-Man as well falls into like that category of like an exclusive game where you just have like a bunch of like effort put into like recreating New York the best you can because obviously like New York is a lot bigger
hmm.
than the map that they have in Spider-Man. But that's a game, like the game is just trying to sell you like a better specific, and also like the same thing happens with Ubisoft games. Like they all look and feel the same. And when a studio tries to do things a bit different, I think that if they land that, they tell you can just tell that a game belongs to a studio just by looking at it. And that was the case for a while with Rockstar Games. They obviously have the most successful games in the world, so they invested a lot in technology, and now their engine. I don't know when we're gonna see something from GTA 6, but when it comes, it's just gonna look great. Like it's just gonna look like the quality of Red Dead Redemption 2, but in the real world, and probably it's gonna be again like another massive hit. But I don't know. I think that it's still they will have to stand out for something other than looking realistic because I don't think that's enough. And also,
Oh
like I
yeah.
have to say that the best parts of Uncharted is when it's less realistic.
Okay. Do you mean as in like the titles or in or specific set pieces?
I would say the set pieces, this
Okay.
impossible set pieces that they are not like by definition they're not realistic. Like you're just like chasing a train and then everything is exploding and then like it's not realistic. It's just fun and they but it's that balance that they do so well that I like it that some people they get triggered because of the whole crunch allegations and they're like that was built with sweat and tears and it's like you don't know you know you don't know which team was like working until 3 a.m. Probably the guy said did the ropes in The Last of Us 2. He was just like chilling like doing his rope mechanics while just by himself and he was the rope guy and he was working like 6 hours every day chilling.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's a whole can of worms. The whole crunch thing, which we could do an episode one day, by the way, because that's very
Sure.
interesting.
But I think that the crunch one is like part of it because like at
Oh
some
yeah,
photorealism is it starts like you have to reach photorealism, and then when do you say stop? And it's work that you're not gonna do. Like if you say, okay, The Last of Us 2 is gonna look like The Walking Dead from Telltale Games. Like the people that made The Walking Dead in Telltale Games, they're not photorealistic. They look like cartoons,
oh no, 100%.
and it looks pretty bad, but it runs on an iPad. So basically, my point I'm making there is that you could just like have like all this work and say, okay, this is just gonna look like this, and then all this work is work that you're not putting into your employees and investing somewhere else. But with Naughty Dog, they're like, okay, let's go all the way. Like these guys are gonna have sex, and then she's gonna take off her shirt, and then someone's like, okay, so we move the camera when she's taking off her shirt. It's like, no, 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 no. We're gonna develop like shirt mechanics for just a single scene. Can we pre-render that? No, one shirt, and they did that. They had shirt mechanics for. I think it's like when
Dina and Ellie, yeah.
Ellie's taking off her sweater, and then she takes off. For people watching this and they don't know, the characters are just like drawn models. So, or overall something like that. The fact that you remove a shirt is like it's something that you need to code like from absolute precision to the point that it's easier to build a system for a shirt physically fitting a character and then removing it than actually coding how someone will like how the fabrics would work. And that's what they did for just that scene. And that's the level of investment that that studio has on the narrative.
Yeah. If anybody wants an idea of what he's talking about, check out anytime a character in a video game has something in their hand, because you can always see how it's animated that it's in his hand, but it's not really in its hand. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it moves a little faster, or the hand moves a little like
when
this.
they pick up something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whenever you pick up something is here. Like there will be always be in games. Like there will always be a moment where you're like, you might be doing like the craziest animation to pick it up, but at some point it would be like click, like magically clipped into, because it doesn't make sense to do it the other way. It's just way too much effort. But they did that for Red Dead Redemption. Like whenever you're standing somewhere and he reaches out, it's a whole those are called inverse kinematics, and then it's just like the arm just reaching out, picking up something, wrapping their fingers, and then it just disappears off camera. But they build that system instead of just like clicking X and collecting it magically like happens in almost every game.
Yeah. So let's see where we can go from here.
I mean, don't know like if you're up for like a shorter episode, but I think I've seen a lot of games that we're playing, so maybe that's gonna like sink a lot of time on the
Awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
on the rest of the, because I have a few questions. I played the Pathless in my iPad, and I wasn't like that into it, but
Okay.
I was surprised that it was running on the iPad. But what do you think of it? Like, should I give it a second try?
So I am completely mind blown that that game is running on an iPad, but I mean, I think like on PS5, I had a great experience. I think that, I mean, the art style, going back to what we were talking about before, it's completely not realistic. It's completely not, I wouldn't say cel shaded, but it's definitely stylized. You know, it's like this, not well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. The music is amazing. One of my favorite composers, Austin Wintory. He's awesome.
He's the guy from the Banner Saga as well, so he's incredibly
Exactly.
prolific, and as well like he has an artistic breadth that it's insane. The fact that he can make music for that game and this game is just mind blowing.
Oh, 100%. He did that. He also did Aliens, the newest Aliens game, the one that's called like Elite Squad or something.
Fire something, I believe.
Yeah, Fire Team Squad or something
Fire
like
Team
that,
Squad, yeah.
which is also like insane. Like he could do like a horror thing as well. And I follow him on YouTube. His content is really great because he kind of goes through his influences. He has this thing where he shows Troy Baker music and they talk about it and they analyze it, and it's pretty cool. And so, yeah, going back to the Pathless, this is a game that I really, I mean, I wouldn't say I fell in love like maybe the second one I'm going to talk about, but it's a really awesome game. Giant Squid. I think Giant Squid was founded by some guys that left that game company, and that game company are the ones responsible for Journey. So to anybody who kind of knows that what that is, and they have this like very distinct style of storytelling, very distinct color palette. They worked both with Abzu, which is I think their first title, and now this one. They've worked with Austin Wintory, who I mean I love him, and I totally recommend this game because it's not very long. I played around maybe, I don't know, 15. No, I wouldn't say 15. I would say like maybe 10 hours because I platinumed the game because I like to see everything. I like to explore everything. But you can maybe burn through this in like 6 hours. And it has a pretty cool story, very minimal in its dialogue. I did find something strange. The protagonist that you play as is voiced by Laura Bailey. And they have this really cool thing where the dialogue is actually a made-up language, but the subtitles is what's telling you what they're saying, which is, I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and also then, like probably Laura Bailey bought a Tesla with that job.
Correct. More Teslas for Laura Bailey. She's awesome. And then Troy Baker's in there as well, and I'm a big fan of his work.
I'm surprised. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, he's like
these two people. They voice games now.
Yeah, and also it's funny they're always together. It's like, what the hell? But yeah, he's in there, but his voice is highly processed. Like it's very like,
why do they do that? Like, why do they pay these super famous actors to do that when they could just pay someone that's just like looking for a job and then give them a real opportunity? Like these people are already like doing like Marvel games. Like they don't like. I think it's cool, but for the studio because that way also like they're working with fancy people. But like but at this point, like the money they're spending on them, they could probably like just hire a Hollywood actor that's like, well, this is something different I would like to do.
I totally agree. I mean, that's exactly what I was going to say. And I would encourage you, if you don't want to play it, or I mean, I totally recommend playing it. But if you don't want to, check a video where he's actually talking, where you can see like, I mean, I love Troy Baker, but I'm not really getting him here. So it's like, why? But I mean, I don't want to criticize because I don't know how.
No, but I think it's a fair argument because like you see Troy Baker. And he also is someone that advocates for, like a fair and equal treatment for everyone, like give everyone opportunities. But at the same time, he's taking all of them. Like he's all like he's the voice of video games, and I think like they're both very talented. Like, but for a case like this where they're not even speaking like a language, is like. And they're not even like massively promoting these games. Like if you go into their Instagram or their YouTube, it's like they obviously will mention like, hey, I worked on this and whatnot. But these people, you will get like one tweet out of them. Like I remember like I was searching for Matty Mercer talking about Judgment, and he only like tweeted one, like, thank you. I don't remember the name of the Japanese studio.
Ryuga Gotoku?
Exactly. It was like, thank you, Ryu, for giving me the opportunity to base Kuroiwa. It was a really fun thing. And that was it. Like I said.
No.
Like, I mean, obviously in that case in particular, he does an amazing job, and it's where like the fact that he's tweeting about it is not why they hire him. But in this case here, it's like, why are you getting out of them that you couldn't get out of more characteristic people? I know.
Yeah, maybe you know what? Maybe they hired Troy Baker so that he could go after Jason Schreier in the case that he would have criticized the Pathless, because that is something he always does.
That's what they're doing. They put Troy Baker so he will defend the game. They put Laura Bailey so no one will like dunk on the game because she's cool. So that's
exactly.
You just hire people that others don't want to like fuck with.
You know the meme of the guy going like,
exactly.
That's exactly.
Galaxy brain right there.
Exactly. But I mean, going back to the game, as I said, I totally recommend it because you have this traversal where you have this bow, so you hit these talismans that are scattered throughout the entire map, and that makes you go faster. And you kind of like get into a rhythm of it, of like, and then you go here and go there. And I mean, the game is beautiful. The boss design, because you have bosses in this when you have actual quote unquote combat. You don't have combat anywhere outside the bosses, but the bosses fights are pretty cool. This game, I actually thought of you because it has a very distinct Breath of the Wild feel, of course in a lesser extent, but it has that feel a little bit, and I really appreciated it. I mean, anybody who has played Zelda throughout their life and sees one of these boss fights and doesn't remember Volvagia from Ocarina of Time, the Fire
Mhm.
Temple boss, I don't know what, I mean, how you could not think of that. So I totally recommend it. But I do think going back to the iPad, totally weird to like.
Well, it's an iPad Pro, so
Oh, okay,
like it's a pretty powerful machine. But
okay,
while I was playing it, I was not like, okay, I'm gonna sink like several hours into this game. And because it's with Apple Arcade. It
okay.
was part of
Oh,
the Apple
and
Arcade
did
deal.
did you does it have like touch controls or did you
Yeah,
play
it
with
has
a?
touch control. It has touch control. So I was
Okay,
like, and it felt well. It's just like I didn't sink that much time into it. It looked cool, but I wasn't sure it was kind of like a game where I would be like, okay, I'm just gonna like wrap this up.
no, I did love like the whole, yeah, because these guys, Giant Squid, they have this style of making things like, I don't want to say cute because cute kind of diminishes it, but it's like
Endearing.
heart endearing, heartwarming, but at the same time
Yeah.
with impact. And I love that stuff from indie studios. So now I'm gonna talk about. Oh wait, did you want to go? Like, should we do one on one?
We can do one on one. That's
Okay, you
cool.
go.
I'm playing Prey. I think that
Hmm.
I'm halfway through the game. I find it very difficult, but I find it incredibly like it's a hit. Like honestly, it's sad that this game didn't like break all the like it like has like 10 across the board. But I do understand why. Like the combat is very open. Like the way that you can deal with things, how you should build your character. I don't think that at any point in the game you're like massively overpowered or anything. So it's the stakes are high, but also I think that the world that you played in, it's really amazing. Like it should definitely it feels like a hidden gem. Like why are more people not like talking about this all the time?
I think we should have this segment on every episode where it's like Christian's hidden gem.
But like obviously like I realized that a lot of what we consume comes from like mainstream media, whether we like it or not, because there's only so many games that other like independent journalists are going to be able to say like, hey, you should play this or like defend this, and say like give it a few more hours. Because the other thing with this game that is in Game Pass and it has FPS boost, and that's also like one of the reasons I picked it up. It was because basically some people were telling me at the beginning it's kind of weird, but as it unfolds, things and decisions that you take like unconsciously, they are really cool. Like for example, you can kill any NPC that you come across with, and if you kill them the story changes a bit. So that's pretty crazy. And sometimes you're like, oof, I wish I had known that, because some people can like be quite the big bitches. Anyway, I think that I'm enjoying it a lot, but I am finding it a bit hard. And obviously, like the game doesn't do a lot of hand holding, so it's not like kind of like in Breath of the Wild where you just like understand like kind of like the rules of the game. Like even halfway through, I don't know if I'm screwing up by fabricating way too many shotgun shells and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of weird.
Okay. Yeah, I think I played this game a couple months ago. Completely loved it, Prey. And yeah, I mean, I think the story I enjoyed. I think it's very very well executed. But for me, what Arcane does better than most studios is the exploration, or how you can access, or let's say face an objective. And you can do it by, as you said, killing maybe the person in question. Maybe there's a way you can sneak in there and use a gas to make them like go unconscious and do whatever. Like there's options. And I have this thing in these games where you're supposed to like find the option that's best for you and go with that one. I'm like, okay, I found what option A. Okay, cool. Let me go back and find option B. I go find option C, and then I choose the one that better fits my.
Yeah, same for me. I like to understand like what is happening, and even though I have a fully upgraded shotgun with me, every once in a while I'm like, what can I do a bit different, because like it does not work for everything. So, and also there are things that there's like almost no hand holding with, even with those options in exploration and combat. Just like there are all these people here, should I kill them? And it's like, well, maybe not, maybe you don't have to. Like you literally have a power that turns you into an object, so so you could just like chill there and wait it out. And I think that's pretty awesome. I think that also like the fact that you have a lot of emergent gameplay as well. Like if you add a lot of like necrotic powers, you start being recognized as an alien by some machines
AI.
and
Yeah,
shit, and the AI, and it's like what the fuck,
that's cool.
you know, like that's I think that's pretty cool, and it's pretty neat. I think that overall, this game, I'm glad that Deathloop is getting all the popularity that this game didn't get, because that means more resources for that studio.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know how I feel about Deathloop because I haven't played it, but the fact that they have 4 games in not gotten the love that they deserve, I'm like, finally.
Finally.
Even if Deathloop sucks, it's like you deserve it, guys. Like, take it in.
Yeah.
So my next game is the one that I wanted to talk about, which is The Artful Escape. This is a game I had not heard about at all before it came out. I think it came out like maybe a week ago or so, because I think it's September,
new. It's new.
September 10th or something like that. But I mean, there was absolutely, I mean, perhaps I missed it or whatever. I didn't see any press for this game at all. But I did see that in the last couple weeks, a lot of people were gushing about it. Like, oh, this is amazing. This is game of the year and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know, like whenever you hear about a game of the year contender that you haven't heard of, it's like weird, right? It's like,
Yeah.
but it's interesting. So I was like, okay, let's see. And I was like, oh, it's on Game Pass. So it's like, I have no excuse to not to try it. And as soon as I start the game, I see that it's got this menu with some folk music, like reminiscent of course, Bob Dylan. And I didn't know that it had to do something with music and being a musician and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool, because I mean, I'm a musician. I have a bass over there. So I as soon as I see the menu, I'm like, oh, Bob Dylan. I'm not a Bob Dylan fan at all. I don't get it. I mean, to me, he's like striking chords and talking. He's not really singing. I don't get it at all. So I'm like, oh, is this a folk music kind of thing where if I don't like Bob Dylan, I'm not going to get it? And as soon as you go in like 15 minutes, it's like, no, Juan. This game was exactly made for you. Because
this is your game.
This is exactly made for you because it's exactly dealing with not getting the folk thing. I mean, not exactly, but if you play it, you'll know what I mean. And I mean, this game is amazing. I think, I mean, I don't really know if I would say game of the year, but as far as indie darlings, as far as a small team getting together, creating a story that has a fantastic cast. I mean, Carl Weathers is in here. Lena Headey. Yeah, awesome. Lena Headey from Game of Thrones is here. Jason Schwartzman is here. I tweeted a thing that I talked to you about.
That was from The Artful Escape?
Yes.
I'll check it out.
Check it out, man. Definitely. And the music, of course, is amazing. I mean, if it wasn't, it would be weird because the game is about being a musician. It's about, you know, living in the shadow of somebody else and finding your own path. And you know how sometimes these things can be a little corny? To me, this game is not corny at all. It kind of goes maybe towards the line, but stays on the side of awesome. The gameplay is very minimal. I mean, you basically just go right because it's the kind of a side scroller. And it has some parts where you do this kind of rhythm thing with a guitar and you play like the notes that they're telling you to play. But if you like rock music, I mean, I don't know.
Is it a short game?
Oh, totally. It's like 4 hours long.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely check it out, man. And there's this thing. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but when you press, when you strike a string, there's this thing where you like bend it for it to sound like. Whenever I was soloing, I was trying to bend the buttons, which is something you can't do. But it's like
of course.
The visceral feeling that it was eliciting within me was that strong, and I just had such a great time. I recommend this to everybody. And I was very like, this is why I'm very estranged to see this, because I see games like 12 Minutes, which I hated, getting so much press, getting previews from
I
IGN.
I downloaded it. I didn't put it here in the list because I saw what you said of the controllers and it was like, "Ugh, I don't want to play this."
Yeah, it puts you off right away. But I mean, seeing how that game got so much press and this is getting none. I mean, the press that this is getting is from the fans that love
Yeah.
it, and I mean that's awesome. But this game deserves more attention. I totally think, and it's an Xbox exclusive. It's only on Xbox and Steam. So it's like, why is Xbox not like praising this game? I mean, I don't get it.
Give them time. On the
Yes.
same page, I was playing Kentucky Road Zero, and if you like Twin Peaks or those type of like I don't know surreal, I don't know American stories, pick this up. This is kind of like it's not a puzzle game. It's hard to explain what it is because it's that good. So I would say like it's definitely a very artistic video game. It has an incredibly daunting story, very metaphorical. It drags you in. The art is great. There are a lot of choices that you can make, and the story is very open. And it's a world that is like a lot of things are happening, and it's everyone will have like a very different experience. And and I downloaded it. It was my first experience with actually buying a game on the Xbox because like this type of games that obviously like this game you have to read a lot because it has no dialogue, but the music is insane. So I don't like playing like book games on the living room because like you have to read like from afar and whatnot. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna play this on Xbox. I have to say that the experience of actually buying a game on Xbox, like it's not that clear. Like because you can download the game from an app and then the game gets downloaded, but then when you try to open it, it's when it says, "Oh, you want to buy the game?" And it was like, "What?" Like
That's
I
weird.
thought it was something like this. Like the whole interface, I'm not used to it, and also like when you hit like either download or something in the PS5 or in the Switch or in anything, you see immediately, okay, you downloaded, downloading, and here's just like you click it, and then I get no immediate feedback other than you click the button. So I think that experience was a bit weird.
Yeah.
I have to say that it was massively weird. I wasn't sure like is this game on Game Pass? Like I just downloaded it and now I'm gonna play. Like it asked me later and I was like okay never mind. But yeah like I think the same idea of like the Artful Escape. This is also like a really cool conceptual game, very well executed, and so far I'm liking it a lot. I'll probably finish it by next week and have like a full review. But so far, it's beautifully written. Art is incredible, music is great, and it's hard to explain even what the game is about. So,
You know,
it,
I'm checking. So sorry to interrupt. I'm just checking because I think this game was in PS Plus, or am I mistaken?
no, I don't think so. This one is new, by the way, like in Tokyo Road Zero.
Oh yeah. Okay. Sure. No, it was
So
not.
it hasn't been there yet.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talk about this game, like as you're saying, like praising it a lot, and I think this is something that probably would be up my alley because it sounds weird and cool.
And you're playing Doom.
Yes, I'm playing Doom Eternal: The Ancient Gods Part One. This is sadly not included in the Game Pass, but I did buy the yearly pass, which includes both
Doom
packages.
Eternal is in the Game Pass.
Of course, yes, my friend.
I'm,
That's
I'm, I'm,
Bethesda.
I'm downloading it.
Yes.
I haven't played it.
By the way, yeah, to everybody, Christian now has an Xbox Series S, so he's part of the
Yeah,
family.
I haven't mentioned that. I think.
Yes. And you already gave us a little bit of your review with that little weird thing about the UI, which I think I agree because it's very different from the PS 4/5. Here, I think you like when you're in your dashboard, you know how in your left you have this thing where it's called My Games and Apps or something
Yeah.
like that. That is where you mostly do your like let's say deleting or adding
Yeah,
or
your
stuff like
library.
that.
Yeah, I picked that
Exactly.
up. I picked that up right away. I just thought it was weird that they keep pushing this narrative of the Xbox being kind of like an entertainment center,
Oh,
and instead of just a fucking game console, like like that tab should be integrated into like the main view. In my opinion, like
yeah,
you
no,
should
I
be
agree.
able to like easily access that, not just have. But I think that they're also pushing for quick resume, so people easily can see that what games they've already been playing.
Absolutely. And yeah, so I picked it up. I mean, I played Doom Eternal I think last year in Game Pass as well. Loved it. I'm a big Doom fan. and I was looking forward to playing this. I got into it this morning, actually, played a little bit. I mean, it's more Doom. From what I have heard, this is like a harder challenge. It's also very much like a lot shorter than the actual game. But to me, what I'm looking for is more Doom, just like what it's promising me. And just to get into the fighting, the rhythm with the music. Like, Doom is a very cool experience where you get into this, yeah, like I said, rhythm of bashing someone's bashing a demon's head in with the rock music behind you, and then you punch over here, you slide over there. Like,
It's amazing.
it's very, very, yeah, it's amazing. And I think it has a philosophy of the game design that flips the doesn't flip the philosophy of the series, like the series past. It flips the philosophy of what we've become accustomed to with Call of Duty. Because in Call of Duty, it's all like, okay, I cover here, and I shoot over there, and then maybe I move over here. Here, they tell you from the beginning, never stop moving, motherfucker.
Yeah, like that. They really reward fluidity and mobility in this game, and they encourage it, and that's completely different. I think that's kind of like the same idea of like what Bloodborne does with
Yep.
Dark Souls. Like Dark Souls is like measure your attacks, be careful, wait for the right window of opportunity. In Bloodborne, it's like be as restless as you can. They can't kill you if you kill them first, kind of thing. And I think that in the case of Doom, they it's almost like a parallel reality where first person shooters just kept getting better instead of becoming the same piece of shit.
Totally. And this is, I mean, when you look at Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 as well, it is kind of ridiculous because it's like this buff guy and blah, blah, blah. But it's so. It makes so much sense within the thing. And
It's what the game is about. Like
yeah, exactly.
that's
It's
the point.
exactly what the game is about.
And it delivers.
And also, one thing that struck me about Doom 2016, and it's something that I will never forget, is that we're used to fearing the idea of a demon. Like, a demon is like the worst thing in Judeo-Christian culture that you can find. You know, it's like the Baba Yaga or whatever you want to call it. Here, the demons fear you. And that is so fucking empowering that I will never
You just
forget it.
kill them in the first one.
Exactly. And it's so awesome. I love it. So, yes, I think the next one, I didn't include it here, but we both played it. So go ahead with the next one.
With Sable,
Yes.
I am not gonna finish it. Like I think they need to fix a lot of bugs and performance issues. Like
Frame rate.
I picked it up and I'm not a snob, but I do expect like when I'm playing a game on a next gen console to run at 60 FPS, especially if it's an indie game. Like I was very disappointed with a lot of the massive frame drops that I was seeing, and with a lot of like texture popping, and overall I was like, I'm gonna wait it out and see if they actually fix this, because it really threw me off. I think this game was made by only two people or something like that. It's a really small studio, so kudos to that. Like that's always like an immense achievement. But I think that it's a buggy lunch, and I'm not one of those persons. Like I don't have a problem if I have to play this in 1 year and then I'll be like, oh, this was amazing. Like I think that right now the frame drops and the texture and the bugs that were just like too much, and I only play like for 30 minutes. So I don't know how long you played it.
Yeah, I played like 30 minutes as well. I played up until the part where you have to like gather the parts for your
Your bike.
ship, your bag, exactly.
Yeah,
And I was like, okay, I'm kind of liking this. It's a little slow, but it does have like a little bit of the Zelda vibe, which I enjoyed.
Mhm.
But the frame rate thing, it's not. I mean, you're playing on an S, I'm playing on an X, and we have the same problem. So it's like
Yeah.
it's a wide problem, and I am doing the same thing as you. I'm like, I'm not gonna delete it off my console yet. I'm gonna wait for a patch, and if after the patch it continues, then probably I'm gonna move on to the next thing.
Yeah,
But
same,
yeah.
same for me. Like I find it insane the fact that it was that buggy, and I don't think anyone, like, it was mentioned in the reviews. I understand that reviewers, they do have to play the game, and most people are saying like it's a good game. and the shortcomings that they were seeing from the game is like what you would expect from a game made by two people. So nothing massive.
Okay.
And the other one is Deathloop. I started playing it again, and it was like I kind of hate this game. I was like, well, what is going on? Like I was not getting it at all, and I get the characters, I get the humor, I get kind of like the mechanics, but the way it was presented at the beginning, it was like not a fan at all. Like the whole thing with the writings on the walls and all that shit. It was like, what the hell? Like it was weird. And then I understood kind of like there's a mystery behind it, and I'm seeing like how open it is and how different it is. But I also don't think it's gonna be a massive, mind blowing experience so far. Like I feel like I already understand what the game is about and what you can do, but I don't see it as like I'm not as intrigued as I am with Prey, for example.
Okay, I think that's very valid. I'm still very intrigued by this game because I mean, I think I've talked to you about this. Like the reviews have been like 10 out of 10s across the board, almost like unanimously. And then you have YouTubers saying it's like a little bit disappointing considering Prey, considering Dishonored 2, which are like masterpieces. And so yeah, I want to play this, but I don't think it's like a drop what you're doing and buy it now at 60 at 70 euros kind of game, correct?
I don't think so. Like
Okay.
I think that they I'm at a point where if they actually develop all the ideas that they're showcasing, it could be, yeah, you just buy it and play it right now. But it could also be that there is a very specific structure of things that you need to figure out what to do and how to do it and in what order in order for you to unblock more things and figure out kind of like this mystery. So I'm not sure. Like I'm on the fence, but that's also a bit weird when it comes to a game. And I think that like I respect that from this game. Like I'm still not sure. Like I'm gonna like either continue playing or I'm gonna get bored or like there are a few things that it's just like I'm just taking it in to see like trying to figure out what the challenge is and how to get there, and then I'll probably have a more informed opinion. The other thing is like because I'm playing Prey, I think I'm very conditioned on like how I'm approaching everything, and probably this is more of a gun swinging game.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Like this one, when you start like getting accustomed to the loops and what you have to do and where everything is and blah blah blah, you don't really like waste much time in like stealthing or stuff like that. Like that, it's more like okay, go for this, go for that, go for that, and yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. Like that once you figure that out, then it's just kind of like run and gun and move things, and that's why you have invasions because otherwise it would get pretty dull, quite fast. But I don't know. Like I'm intrigued, but I'm probably gonna try to finish Prey first, which I think like I'm halfway through, and then I'll pick this up.
Okay. One last question about Deathloop would be how do you feel about the AI? Because that's the thing, the main thing that I've heard about it. That's like disappointing. I don't know.
That they're pretty dumb or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So far I haven't fought any like I'm only been fighting like weak NPCs. So I'm not sure. Like they seem to be very dumb. Like something I like is that if I go into a gunfight in an area, it's not like I draw 20 people to kill me, you know?
Okay.
So I think that's cool. Like if you go into a place and then you fight it off, it's not like you lose to stealth. It's like you can either recover it or you can just actually kill everyone with your guns. And it's not a Souls like or anything. Like if you get hurt, then you can just like heal up and whatnot. So but the scenarios like they don't seem to be that big. I don't know if I'm missing something. The other thing that is kind of weird is like the whole thing with the water. That Arcane Studios like you get hurt every time you walk on water in their game. So I don't fucking get it. Here, water is toxic. If you step on it, you get hurt. If you fall in water, you die. And, and I honestly don't get it.
That is weird.
And the same thing happens in Prey. In Prey, water hurts you. So I don't get it.
Maybe it's because the original name of the studio was Arcane of Sugar. You know, that's
Oh my god! Wow.
probably what's happening.
You just came that up. You just came up with that right now.
Yes, of course. That's how my brain works. It just
amazing. It should be a clip. Please clip this and put it on Twitter and YouTube.
Yes, of course. I mean, my brain is very adept at doing two things: coming up with very bad jokes in seconds, and also storing the information that is going to be the most useless for me. So that is why I'm doing this podcast.
Well, and that's it. I'm playing a lot of things thanks to the Game Pass and the little baby.
Oh yeah, you got one of the white ones that looks pretty quick.
There are different colors. You're fucking kidding me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like
I didn't
a black.
know that. I'm a fucking idiot.
I mean, with the Series S, you can only get the white one
okay,
packed
cool.
in. Yeah.
Cool.
But then if you buy a next, like mine came with a black one by default. There was no way to change that either. But I bought a blue one, which is also pretty cool.
You mean the controller? Okay, no, I thought the console. I thought there was like a black version of the...
Oh, no.
Okay.
The only variation I've seen is like the Halo Series X, which looks so sexy, but I mean, I'm not going to buy a second one.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this has been our episode 53 of New Game Experience. We hope you enjoyed it. Our talk about realism in games and what we're playing and everything in between. Please check out Mr. Christian Caroli's podcast.
You can go to hammerspacepodcast.com. Check out what I have to say.
Correct. And please subscribe to this one. You're already here. It just takes a little drag of a click or a dragging of a just finger and tapping.
It's here.
I mean, it's just there. It's right there. The button. You know, you see it.
You're right.
There.
It's on the left. Don't tap this one. Otherwise, we'll take it to the homepage. It's here. It's over
exactly.
here.
Tap it. It's just right there. And if you want, you can like it. You can share it. That would allow us to reach even more people. If you want to comment something about what we talked about here, or maybe if you have a suggestion of what we could talk about in the future, that's also pretty cool. We can include that in there as well.
Sure.
And we will see you on the next episode of New Game Experience next week.